Jiwan wiped the sweat from his forehead as he floated through the dark hallway of the alien ship. His helmet light cut through the darkness, showing walls covered in strange blue crystals. The ship was huge, much bigger than any human vessel he had ever seen. "Theo, are you getting this?" Jiwan spoke into his radio. "This place is incredible." "I see it on your camera feed," came the voice of his captain through the static. "Those crystals look valuable. But be careful, Jiwan. We don't know what happened to the crew." Jiwan had been a salvage operator for 5 years now. He and his team found old ships floating in space and took anything worth selling. It was dangerous work, but it paid well. Most of the time, they found human ships that had broken down or been attacked by pirates. But this was different. The alien ship was massive, at least 3 times the size of their own vessel. It had been drifting in empty space for who knows how long. No signals, no power, no signs of life. Just floating like a metal ghost. "The air is breathable," Hyman's voice crackled through the radio. She was their doctor and science expert. "But I'm reading some strange energy patterns deeper in the ship." Jiwan pushed himself along the hallway, using handholds built into the crystal walls. Everything about this ship was alien. The doorways were too tall, the controls were covered in symbols he couldn't read, and there was a strange blue glow coming from somewhere up ahead. "I'm going to check out that light source," Jiwan said. "Not alone, you're not," Ao replied. "Wait for backup." But Jiwan was already moving toward the glow. He had always been too curious for his own good. That's what got him kicked out of the Earth military and into salvage work in the first place. The hallway opened into a huge room filled with machines. Everything was covered in dust, but the blue crystals still glowed softly. In the center of the room was something that looked like a medical bed, but it was made of the same crystal material as the walls. And lying on the bed was a girl. Jiwan's breath caught in his throat. She looked almost human, but her skin had a silver blue color that seemed to shine in the crystal light. Her hair was white as snow and fell past her shoulders. She was wearing some kind of tight-fitting suit that looked like it was made of liquid metal. "Guys, you need to see this," Jiwan whispered into his radio. "What did you find?" Dao asked. "A survivor." The girl's chest rose and fell slowly. She was alive, but barely. Tubes connected her to the crystal bed, and strange symbols flashed. On a screen nearby, Jiwan didn't need to read alien writing to know what he was looking at. This was some kind of life support system, and it was failing. "Hyman, I need you in here now," Jiwan said, his voice urgent. "On my way," the doctor replied. Jiwan studied the machine. Red lights were flashing where there had been blue ones before. Even without understanding the technology, he could see that the girl was in trouble. The machine was running out of power. He looked around the room and spotted what looked like a manual control panel. It was covered in the same strange symbols, but there were also physical switches and dials. Sometimes the simple approach worked best. "What are you doing?" Daeho's voice sounded worried. "Trying to keep her alive," Jiwan said, reaching for the largest switch on the panel. "Wait for Hyman. You don't know what that will do." But Jiwan had already pulled the switch. The room filled with bright blue light as backup power kicked in. The failing red lights turned blue again, and the girl's breathing became stronger. Suddenly, her eyes opened. They were the most beautiful eyes Jiwan had ever seen. They were silver like mercury, with flecks of blue that seemed to swirl like tiny galaxies. But there was something else in those eyes. Pain, fear, and something that looked like recognition. The girl sat up slowly, the tubes falling away from her body. She looked at Jiwan for a long moment, then did something that shocked him completely. She slid off the crystal bed and fell to her knees in front of him. "Life debt acknowledged," she said in broken galactic standard, the common language used for trade between worlds. This one serves the human savior until death claims us both. What? No, get up, Jiwan said, reaching down to help her stand. You don't owe me anything. I just turned on your machine. But the girl wouldn't stand. She kept her head down and spoke again. Ancient ways cannot be broken. This one's life belongs to Master now. I'm not your master, Jiwan said firmly. My name is Jiwan. What's yours? This one is called Myray, she said, still not looking up. This one was the last guardian of the research vessel, Eternal Dawn. Now this one serves Master Jiwan. Hyman's voice came through the radio. Jiwan, I'm almost there. Is she hostile? No, Jiwan replied, still trying to get Myray to stand up. But she thinks I own her or something. When Hyman arrived, she immediately began scanning Myray with her medical equipment. The readings made her gasp. Jiwan, this girl is incredible. Hyman whispered. Her muscle density is 3 times human normal. Her brain activity is off the charts. And look at this. She showed him her scanner. She's telepathic. Myray finally stood when Hyman asked her to, but she kept her eyes on Jiwan the whole time. Master's healer friend may examine this one, she said politely. She's in perfect health, Hyman reported. Better than perfect, actually. Whatever species she is, they're far more advanced than humans. What happened to your ship? Jiwan asked Myray. Her silver eyes grew sad. The great experiment failed. This one's people tried to break the ancient bonds that held them. The punishment was severe. All died except this one, kept in sleep death. As witness to their failure. How long were you asleep? Many cycles. This one does not know the exact count. Daho's voice interrupted them. Jiwan, we need to go. Now, I'm picking up ships on the scanner. They're coming this way, and they don't look friendly. Through the ship's windows, Jiwan could see lights moving in the darkness of space. Ships. Lots of them. Can you walk? He asked Myray. This one can fight, she replied, and her eyes began to glow with the same blue light as the crystals around them. Master Jiwan's ship is in danger, Myray said, her voice becoming stronger. This one will not allow harm to come to the human savior. Hey. Glow in her eyes grew brighter, and suddenly, Jiwan could hear the sound of the ship systems coming back to life around them. Lights turned on, engines hummed with power, and weapon systems that had been dead for centuries began to charge up. No more tricks, Myray said, her voice now carrying a strange echo. This one will show the raiders why they should fear the Villani. Outside, the approaching ships suddenly found themselves facing a fully armed alien warship with weapons they had never seen before. And controlling it all was a silver-eyed girl who had just sworn her life to a human salvage worker. Jiwan realized his simple salvage mission had just become something much more complicated. The alien ship's weapons came alive with deadly blue fire. Myray stood in the center of the crystal chamber, her eyes glowing bright as she controlled systems that had been dead for centuries. Her hands moved over crystal panels that responded to her touch like they were part of her own body. Master Jiwan, please return to your vessel, Myray said, her voice calm despite the battle raging outside. This one will protect you from the raiders. Through the ship's windows, Jiwan watched as beams of blue energy struck the attacking ships. These weren't ordinary pirates. Their ships were painted with red skull symbols that marked them as Korthic raiders, some of the most feared killers in the Outer Rim. Myray, you don't have to fight them, Jiwan said. We can try to talk to them. The Korthic take slaves and kill for pleasure, Myray replied without looking away from her controls. They will not listen to words. This one knows their kind. Korthak warship exploded in a ball of fire as Myray's weapons found their target. The other raiders began to retreat, but she wasn't done with them yet. Her fingers danced across the crystal controls, and the alien ship's guns tracked the fleeing enemies with deadly accuracy. "Stop," Jiwan shouted. "They're running away." But my ray kept firing. 3 more Korthic ships died in blue fire before the survivors jumped to hyperspace and escaped. When the battle was over, Maray's eyes stopped glowing and she swayed on her feet. Jiwan caught her before she could fall. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "This one is undamaged," she said, but her voice was weak. The ship's weapons required much energy to control. Taimin ran her scanner over my ray again. Her brain activity spiked during the battle. It's like she was connected directly to the ship's computer. "Because this one was," my ray said simply. "All Villani can interface with technology. It is how. This one's people served their masters for thousands of years." "Served?" Jiwan helped her sit down on a crystal bench. "You mean you were slaves?" My ray looked confused by his tone. "Not slaves. Servants. This one's people were made to serve. It is the natural order." "Nobody is made to serve," Jiwan said firmly. "Everyone has the right to be free." "Master Jiwan does not understand," my ray said sadly. "Without purpose, without a master to serve, Villani fade away and die. This one has seen it happen." Back on their own ship, Captain Dai-Ho is both impressed and worried. "That was incredible firepower," he said. "But now everyone in 3-star systems will know we have alien weapons." Their ship was small and fast, built for salvage work rather than fighting. It had basic shields and 1 laser cannon that was mostly used for cutting through metal. Nothing that could have stopped the Korthic raiders. "We need to get to Nexus Station," Hyman said. "I want to run more tests on my ray, and we need information about her species." Nexus Station was a huge trading post built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. It was neutral territory where people from all over the galaxy came to buy, sell, and trade information. If anyone knew about the Villani, it would be someone there. During the 3-day journey, Jiwan tried to learn more about my ray. She was eager to help with anything he asked, but she always called him Master, no matter how many times he told her not to. "My people were created by the old empire," she explained while helping him repair a broken power coupling. "We were given great abilities, so we could serve better. Strength, speed, telepathy, and the gift of machine speech." "Machine speech?" "The ability to talk to computers and control them with our minds," my ray said. Her touch had already fixed the coupling faster than Jiwan could have managed with tools. "What happened to the old empire?" Ray's expression grew sad. "It fell many centuries ago. When it did, most Villani were abandoned by their masters. Without purpose, they lost the will to live. This one's ship was one of the last research stations, trying to find a way to break the bonds that tied us to service. Did they succeed? No. The experiment failed, and the punishment was death for all aboard. This one was spared only to serve, as a reminder of what happens when Villani try to change their nature." That night, while my ray meditated in the ship's cargo bay, Jiwan talked with his crew. "She killed dozens of people today," Dao said quietly, "and she didn't seem bothered by it at all." "They were raiders," Jiwan pointed out. "They would have killed us." "Maybe," Hyman said, "but she destroyed ships that were trying to retreat. That's not self-defense. That's execution. She's been conditioned to think violence is the answer," Jiwan said. "We need to help her understand that there are other ways." When they reached Nexus Station, my ray stayed close to Jiwan's side. The busy quarters full of different alien species seemed to make her nervous. Her silver eyes constantly scanned for threats, and she flinched whenever someone got too close to them. They found Sun Yin in his usual spot at Trader's Rest, a bar that served as his office. He was a thin man with graying hair who had been buying and selling information for 20 years. If there was a secret in the galaxy, Sun Yun probably knew it. Ji-Wan, my friend, Sung-Yun said with a smile. I hear you had some excitement with Korthak raiders. Word travels fast out here. We need information, Ji-Wan said, sliding into the booth across from him. About the Vellani. Sung-Yun's smile disappeared. His eyes flicked to Myray, who stood silently behind Ji-Wan's chair like a bodyguard. Silver skin, white hair, glowing eyes, Sung-Yun whispered. You found one, didn't you? A real Vellani war form. War form? Ji-Wan asked. The Vellani weren't. Just servants, Sung-Yun explained, his voice low. They were weapons. The old empire used them to enforce their rule across 1,000 worlds. When a planet rebelled, they sent the Vellani. Entire armies would surrender rather than face them in battle. What happened to them? The Galactic Council happened, Sung-Yun said bitterly. When the old empire fell, the council was formed to keep peace. But they were terrified of the Vellani. Beings that powerful, with that much loyalty to dead masters, were seen as a threat to the new order. So they killed them? All of them. Every Vellani world was sterilized from orbit. Ships were hunted down and destroyed. It took 50 years. But they were thorough. The Vellani are supposed to be extinct. Myray spoke for the first time since they'd sat down. This one is the last. Sung-Yun stared at her with a mixture of fear and fascination. They say one Vellani could control an entire fleet if she wanted to. Is it true? This one serves Master Ji-Wan, Myray said simply. This one's power is his to command. You need to be very careful, Sung-Yun warned. If the council finds out you have her, they'll send everything they have to stop you. They won't take chances with a Vellani. Over the next few days at Nexus Station, Myray proved how useful she could be. When traders tried to cheat them on salvage prices, she would stare at them with her silver eyes, and they would suddenly become much more reasonable. When their ship needed repairs, she interfaced with the station's computer systems and got them. Priority service. But Ji-Wan noticed that people were afraid of her. They would step aside when she walked past, and conversations would stop when she entered a room. Word was spreading about the silver-eyed girl who followed the human salvager. Master seems troubled, Myray said one evening as they prepared to. Leave the station. People are scared of you, Ji-Wan said honestly, and I'm starting to understand why. This one only wishes to serve Master faithfully. Is this one displeasing? No, Myray, you're not displeasing. But the way you serve, the way you obey without question, it's not natural. People should have the freedom to choose. Choice leads to chaos, Myray said, repeating something she had obviously been taught. Service brings order. This one's purpose is to serve Master Ji-Wan until death. Before Ji-Wan could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency. Lights flashed red as an announcement echoed through the corridors. Attention all residents. Galactic Council forces are approaching. All ships are to remain docked pending inspection. Through the station's windows, they could see the sleek white ships of the Council fleet surrounding Nexus Station. Their sensors would be scanning every vessel, looking for something specific. They're here for me, Myray said calmly. This one has been detected. A new voice came over the station's communication system. It was cold and official. We are searching for a dangerous alien fugitive. Silver skin, white hair, telepathic abilities. Anyone harboring this individual will be charged with crimes against galactic security. Ji-Wan felt his blood run cold. After 300 years, the Council was still hunting Vellani, and now they had found the last one. The Council ships moved like white sharks through space, surrounding Nexus Station with cold efficiency. Ji-Wan watched from the viewport as boarding shuttles launched from the warships, heading straight for the station's docking bays. We need to leave, Deo said, his hands already moving over the ship's controls. Now, the station is locked down. Hyman reported from her sensor station. "They've got tractor beams on every ship. Nobody's going anywhere." Myray stood perfectly still in the center of their small bridge, her silver eyes closed as if she was listening to something only she could hear. 12 Council warships, she said quietly. 243 soldiers boarding the station. They have scanners specifically designed to detect Villani biosignatures. "How can you know all that?" Jiwan asked. "This one can hear their computer networks," Myray replied. "Their machines speak of orders to capture or kill the last Villani. They fear what this one might become if left free." "What you might become?" Myray opened her eyes, and for a moment they glowed with that same blue light from the alien ship. "Without a master's control, Villani can become very dangerous. The old stories tell of servants who went mad with grief when their masters died. They destroyed entire star systems in their pain. That's not going to happen to you," Jiwan said firmly. "Master Jiwan is kind, but this one knows the truth. The Council fears this one because they know what Villani were made to do." Her voice became sadder. "Perhaps it would be better if this one surrendered. Master would be safe then." "Nobody's surrendering," Deho said from the pilot's seat. "G1, can she really control their ships like she did with that alien vessel?" "This one could try," Myray said hesitantly. "But Council ships have better defenses than Korthic raiders. And if this one uses full power, Master's ship might be damaged in the battle." "Then we run," Jiwan decided. "Can you disable their tractor beams?" Myray nodded and placed her hands on the ship's control panels. Her skin began to glow with soft blue light as she connected with their systems. "This one can give you 60 seconds of freedom. After that, they will adapt their defenses." 60 seconds is all I need," Deho said with a grim smile. "Everyone hold on." The ship's engines roared to life as Myray's power flowed through their systems. For a moment, Jiwan felt like they were connected to something vast and alien. Then, Deho hit the acceleration, and they shot away from Nexus Station like a bullet. Behind them, the Council ships reacted with military precision. Within moments, 6 warships were chasing them, while the others continued searching the station. "They're faster than us," Hyman warned, watching her sensors. "But this one knows where to go," Myray said. She was still connected to the ship's navigation system, her eyes glowing as she plotted a course through the asteroid field that surrounded the station. What followed was the most terrifying hour of G1's life. Their small salvage ship twisted and turned through the floating rocks, with Council warships right behind them. Myray guided them through gaps that seemed impossible, her connection to the ship's sensors letting her see paths that no human pilot could have found. But the Council ships were gaining ground. Their weapons began firing, red laser blasts lighting up the darkness around them. "Hull breach in Cargo Bay 2, Hyman reported as the ship shook from a near miss. "This one must fight," Myray said, her voice becoming that strange, echoing tone. "From before." "No," Jiwan said quickly. "We keep running. There has to be another way. Master, they will catch us soon. This one's duty is to protect you." "Your duty is to stay alive," Jiwan shot back. "I won't let you sacrifice yourself for me." Myray looked surprised by his words. "Master does not wish this one to fight?" "I wish you would stop calling me Master," Jiwan said. "And no, I don't want you to fight. I want you to live." They broke, free of the asteroid field, but now they were in open space with nowhere to hide. The Council ships spread out to surround them, their weapons charging for a final attack. "Surrender now and the Villani will be dealt with quickly," came a broadcast from the lead Council ship. "Continue to resist and you will all be destroyed. Deal with me quickly?" Myray repeated, and for the first time since Jiwan had met her, she sounded angry. "They speak of this one like an animal to be put down." "That's exactly what they think you are," Jiwan said sadly. They're afraid of your power, so they want to destroy you, rather than try to understand you. And this one will show them why they should be afraid. Before Jiwan could stop her, Myray placed both hands on the ship's main computer. Her entire body began to glow with blue light as she reached out with her mind, not just to their ship, but to the council vessels surrounding them. What happened next was like watching magic. The council ships suddenly began turning their weapons on each other. Their own missiles launched back at them. Their energy cannons fired into their sister ships' engines. In less than 2 minutes, half the pursuing fleet was disabled or destroyed. But the effort was too much for Myray. Blood ran from her nose, and her legs gave out as she collapsed to the deck. Myray! Jiwan knelt beside her, checking for injuries. This one is undamaged, she whispered, but her voice was weak. However, this one has revealed too much. They will send everything now. She was right. Within hours, reports came in from across the sector. The Galactic Council was mobilizing its entire fleet. Hundreds of ships were converging on their location, and there was talk of using planet-killer weapons if necessary to stop the Velani threat. They took refuge on a small frontier world called Haven's Rest, landing their damaged ship in a spaceport that didn't ask too many questions. While Daiho and Hyman worked on repairs, Jiwan sat with Myray in a quiet cantina, trying to understand what was happening to her. You're changing, he said, watching her stare blankly at the wall. Every time you use your powers, you become more distant. This one is becoming what this one was made to be. Myray replied in that flat, emotionless voice. A weapon, a tool of war. It is this one's nature. That's not your nature, Jiwan insisted. That's what someone else made you into. You can choose to be something different. Choice is an illusion for this one's people, Myray said. This one was designed to serve. When this one's master dies, this one will either find a new master or fade away into madness. There is no other path. What if I ordered you to be free? Myray finally looked at him, confusion clear in her silver eyes. Master cannot order this. One to disobey master. It makes no sense. Then what if I'm not your master? What if I'm just your friend? Friends are equals, Myray said slowly, as if the concept was foreign to her. This one is not equal to Master Jiwan. Master is wise and kind and deserving of service. This one is a weapon that thinks it is alive. You are alive, Jiwan said firmly. You have thoughts and feelings and hopes. That makes you a person, not a weapon. For a moment, something flickered in Myray's eyes. Something that looked almost like hope, but then it was gone, replaced by that same distant expression. Master is kind to say such things, she said. But this one knows what this one is. That night, while the others slept, Jiwan found Myray standing outside their ship, looking up at the stars. There were tears on her cheeks, silver drops that caught the moonlight. What's wrong? He asked. This one remembers them, she whispered. The others, the Velani who died when their masters abandoned them. This one can hear their voices sometimes, calling out in the darkness between the stars. What do they say? They beg for purpose, for meaning, for someone to tell them what to do. She turned to look at him, and her eyes were full of pain. They are still out there, Master Jiwan, broken and mad and alone. And this one fears becoming like them. You won't, Jiwan promised. I won't let that happen to you. Master cannot protect this one from this one's own nature, Myray said sadly. Soon the council will find us again. When they do, this one will have to fight. And each time this one fights, this one becomes less like the person Master wants this one to be. In the distance, they could see lights moving across the night sky, ships entering the system. The council had found them again, and this time they had brought an entire fleet. Myray's eyes began to glow as she sensed the approaching vessels. 57 warships, she reported emotionlessly. They mean to end this one permanently. Then we run again, Ji-Wan said. No more running, Mai-Rei replied, and her voice carried that terrible echo of power. This one grows tired of hiding. Perhaps it is time to show the galaxy what happens when they threaten Master Ji-Wan. Looking up at her glowing eyes, Ji-Wan realized they were running out of time. Each battle made Mai-Rei more machine-like, more weapon-like. If he couldn't find a way to help her soon, he was going to lose the person she was trying so hard to be. The Council fleet hung in space above Haven's Rest like a wall of white metal and death. 57 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a city. They had come to kill one alien girl, and they were prepared to destroy an entire world to do it. Mai-Rei stood in the middle of their ship's bridge, her silver eyes blazing with power as she reached out with her mind to touch every vessel in the enemy fleet. This one can feel their fear, she said in that cold, emotionless voice. They know what this one is capable of now. Mai-Rei, please, Ji-Wan begged. Don't do this. There has to be another way. Master Ji-Wan still believes in mercy, she replied without looking at him. But the Council understands only strength. This one will show them the true power of the Vallani. What happened next was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Mai-Rei didn't just take control of one or two ships like before. She reached into the minds of every computer system in the entire fleet at once. Suddenly, 57 Council warships were no longer following their original orders. Instead, they began an elegant, deadly dance of destruction. Ship turned against ship as Mai-Rei conducted a symphony of chaos. Weapons fired into friendly hulls, missiles launched at sister vessels, and energy shields redirected to protect the wrong targets. In less than 10 minutes, the most powerful fleet the Council had ever assembled was reduced to floating wreckage, but the cost was terrible. When the battle ended, Mai-Rei collapsed to the deck, blood streaming from her eyes and nose. Her entire body shook as if she was having a seizure. Get her to medical, Ji-Wan ordered, lifting her unconscious form. Hyman's scanners painted a grim picture. Her brain activity is completely out of control, the doctor reported. It's like she's burning herself out from the inside. When Mai-Rei finally woke up 3 days later, she was different. Her movements were precise and mechanical, her voice completely flat. The warmth that had sometimes shone in her silver eyes was gone, replaced by cold calculation. Fleet eliminated, she reported to Ji-Wan, like she was making a military briefing. Council forces in this sector have been neutralized. This one awaits new orders. Mai-Rei, it's me, Ji-Wan said gently. How are you feeling? This one does not feel, she replied. This one functions. This one serves. What are Master's orders? Ji-Wan felt his heart break a little. The person Mai-Rei had been trying to become was disappearing, replaced by the living weapon she had been designed to be. That's when Sung-Yun contacted them with impossible news. I know where it is, the information broker said over the ship's communication system. The Vallani homeworld. It still exists. That's impossible, Deo said. The Council destroyed all their worlds. Not all of them, Sung-Yun replied. There's an old jump gate hidden in the Veil Nebula. It leads to a pocket dimension where the last Vallani research station was located. If there are answers about how to help your friend, they'll be there. Mai-Rei showed no emotion when they told her about the home world. This one's orders are to accompany Master Ji-Wan, she said simply. Destination is irrelevant. The journey to the Veil Nebula took a week. During that time, Ji-Wan watched helplessly as Mai-Rei became more machine-like with each passing day. She stopped eating unless ordered to. She stood motionless for hours, staring at nothing. When she spoke, It was only to acknowledge orders or report status. She's losing herself, Hyman said quietly. Each time she uses her full power, she becomes less human and more weapon. She was never human to begin with, Aho pointed out. You know what I mean, Hyman snapped. She had personality, emotions, hopes. Now she's becoming a robot that happens to be made of flesh. The jump gate was ancient, a massive ring of dark metal floating in the depths of the nebula. When they approached, it activated automatically, recognizing Murray's biosignature. A swirling portal of energy opened in the center of the ring. "Welcome home, daughter of the Vellani," came a voice from the gate itself. "Enter and learn the truth of what you are." The pocket dimension beyond the gate was beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. A single world hung in artificial sunlight, covered in crystal cities that sparkled like jewels. But the cities were empty. No lights shone in the windows. No ships moved through the skies. It was a monument to a dead civilization. Population, 0. Myray reported as they landed near the largest city. No life signs detected. Automated systems maintaining minimum functionality. The city was a maze of crystal spires and floating walkways. Everything was built for beings taller and more graceful than humans, with doorways that arched high overhead and stairs that seemed to flow like frozen water in the center of the city. Stood a massive building that looked like a natural crystal formation. As they approached, doors opened automatically, and a hologram appeared before them. It showed a Vellani male with the same silver skin and white hair as Myray, but his eyes held a sadness that seemed to reach across centuries. "I am Keeper Thanis," the hologram said. "If you are seeing this message, then at least one of our people has survived. Please enter the archive. Learn what we tried to do and what we failed to achieve." Inside the archive, walls of crystal held millions of recorded memories. Myray walked among them like she was in a trance, her hands touching each surface as information flowed directly into her mind. "The experiment," she whispered, the first emotion Jiwan had heard from her in days. They were trying to break the conditioning, trying to free the Vellani from the need to serve. Did they succeed? Jiwan asked. "No," Myray said, and her voice was full of pain. "The conditioning is too deep. It is written into every cell of our bodies, every pathway in our brains. Without it, Vellani simply stopped functioning." They found records of the final days. The researchers had tried everything: genetic therapy, brain surgery, even complete memory wipes. But every test subject either died or went insane. The need to serve wasn't just psychological for the Vellani. It was biological. "So there's no hope?" Jiwan asked. "There was one possibility," Myray said, reading from a crystal that glowed brighter than the others. "The choosing. An ancient ritual from before the Vellani were enslaved. It allows one of our people to choose their own destiny, but the risk is enormous." "What kind of risk?" "Death or madness," Myray said simply. "The ritual forces the subject to confront every aspect of their conditioning. Most who attempt it are destroyed by the process. But some survive. The records are unclear. The experiment was never completed because the Council found this place before it could be tested. At the heart of the archive, they found the ritual chamber itself. It was a sphere of pure crystal suspended in the center of a vast room. Tubes and cables connected it to the archive's main computer, ready to flood the occupant's mind with every piece of Vellani history and knowledge. "This one understands now," Myray said, staring at the chamber. The choosing was meant to show Vellani what they were before the conditioning, to give them the chance to decide for themselves what they wanted to become. "It's too dangerous," Jiwan said. "I won't let you risk your life on something that might not even work." "This one is already dying," Myray replied, turning to face him. For the first time in days, There was something like her old self in her eyes. Each time this one uses full power, this one becomes less of a person and more of a weapon. Soon there will be nothing left but the programming. Then we'll find another way. There is no other way, she said sadly. Master Jiwan has been kind to this one. Master has treated this one like a person instead of a tool. But this one knows what this one is becoming. Alarms suddenly echoed through the Crystal City. Outside, the sky was filling with white ships as the Council fleet emerged from hyperspace. They had followed the energy trail from the destroyed fleet and found the hidden dimension. 64 warships, Myray reported, her voice becoming mechanical again. They have brought planet-killer weapons this time. They mean to destroy this world completely. Then we leave, Jiwan said. Right now, negative, Myray replied. This one's programming will not allow retreat. The enemy threatens Master Jiwan. This one must protect Master at all costs. Her eyes began to glow as she prepared to interface with the planet's defense systems. But Jiwan grabbed her hands, stopping her. I'm not your master, he said firmly. I never was. I'm your friend. And friends don't own each other. Master speaks of things this one cannot understand, Myray said, but there was confusion in her voice. Then understand this, Jiwan said. I care about you. Not because you're useful, not because you're powerful, but because you're a person. And I want you to choose your own path. For a moment, the glow in Myray's eyes flickered. Choose? Yes, Jiwan said. Choose what you want to do. Choose who you want to be. Choose whether to take the risk of the choosing or find some other way to live. Myray stared at him for a long moment. Outside, the Council ships were taking position to begin their bombardment. Soon this ancient world would be nothing but dust and memory. This one ... double quotes, she began, then stopped. I want to choose. She walked to the ritual chamber and placed her hand on its crystal surface. A sphere began to glow, responding to her touch. If this one dies in the choosing, she said to Jiwan, will Master remember this one as a person and not a weapon? You're not going to die, Jiwan said. And yes, I'll always remember you as my friend. Myray smiled then, the first real smile. The crystal chamber closed around Myray like a cocoon of light. Through the transparent walls, Jiwan could see her floating in the center, surrounded by swirling patterns of energy that seemed to be writing themselves directly into her mind. Outside the archive, the Council bombardment had begun. Explosions shook the ancient building as missiles rained down on the Crystal City. Through the windows, Jiwan could see the beautiful spires collapsing one by one. We need to go, Deho said urgently. This place won't survive much longer. Not without Myray, Jiwan replied, watching her motionless form in the ritual chamber. The choosing cannot be interrupted, pinned the voice of Keeper Thanis from the hologram projector. To do so would mean certain death for the subject. She must complete the process or die in the attempt. Inside the chamber, Myray's body began to convulse as the ancient knowledge of her people flooded her mind. She was experiencing the entire history of the Vellani, from their earliest days as a free people to their transformation into living weapons dot through the crystal walls. Jiwan saw images playing across her face like a movie. He saw the Vellani before. They were enslaved, living in harmony on worlds of crystal and light. He saw the coming of the old empire, the genetic modifications that changed his people into servants, and the thousands of years of bondage that followed. But he also saw something else. He saw moments of rebellion, of Vellani who had tried to remember what they once were. Most had failed, but a few had succeeded in keeping their true selves alive beneath the programming. The ritual is showing her what she was meant to be, Keeper. Thanis explained. Not a weapon, not a servant, but a person with the power to choose her own destiny. The bombardment was getting closer. A missile struck the archive directly, causing cracks to appear in the crystal walls. Emergency lights flashed as the building systems struggled to maintain power. Ji-Wan, we have to leave now, Hyman called. From the entrance. The whole city is coming down. But at that moment, something changed inside the chamber. The chaotic energy patterns suddenly became organized, flowing in perfect harmony around Marae's body. Her eyes opened, and they blazed with silver light that was different from before. It wasn't the cold glow of the weapon mode. This was warm, alive, and entirely her own. The chamber opened, and Marae stepped out, but she was transformed. She moved, with the same grace as before, but now it was natural rather than programmed. Her face showed emotions that seemed to come from deep inside rather than from surface mimicry. I remember, she said, and her voice was completely different. Still musical, still carrying that alien accent, but now it was truly hers. I remember what we were before the Empire came. I remember what it means to choose. Are you all right? Ji-Wan asked, reaching out to steady her. I am myself, she said, wonder in her voice. For the first time in my life, I am truly myself. Another explosion rocked the building, and chunks of crystal fell from the ceiling. The Council fleet had found their range, and the archive wouldn't last much longer. We need to get out of here, Dio said. No, Marae said, but this time it wasn't the flat refusal of her programming. This was a choice made with full knowledge of the consequences. The Council fleet has come to destroy the last remnant of Velani civilization. I won't let that happen. You don't have to fight them, Ji-Wan said. We can find another way. There is no other way, Marae replied, but she smiled as she said it. The difference is that now I'm choosing to fight. Not because I'm programmed to protect you, but because I believe it's the right thing to do. She walked to the archive's main computer and placed her hands on the crystal interface. But this time, when her eyes began to glow, Ji-Wan could see the difference. Before, she had been a weapon using its programming. Now, she was a person using her abilities by choice. I can interface with the planet's defense systems, she said, but I won't turn the Council ships against each other. That would make me no better than the weapon I used to be. Instead, she did something far more powerful. She reached out with her mind and touched every communication system in the Council fleet. Suddenly, every screen on every ship showed the same thing, the true history of the Velani. The Council soldiers saw images of the peaceful civilization that had existed before the Empire came. They saw the genetic modifications that had turned a free people into slaves. They saw the centuries of faithful service and the brutal genocide that had followed when the Velani were no longer needed. Most importantly, they saw Marae herself, not as a weapon or a monster, but as the last survivor of a murdered species, trying to find her own place in the galaxy. My people were not the enemy, her voice echoed through every Council ship. We were victims. We served faithfully for thousands of years, and when we were no longer useful, we were slaughtered. I am the last of my kind, and I choose to live in peace. The bombardment stopped. For long minutes, the Council fleet hung motionless in space, above the crystal world. Then, one by one, the ships began to withdraw. Not all of them, but enough to matter. The truth of what the Velani had been, and what had been done to them, was spreading through the galaxy's communication networks. Some will still come, Marae said as she disconnected from the archive systems. Fear and hatred are hard to overcome. But others will listen, and that's a beginning. They found their ship intact in the ruins of the city's spaceport. As they prepared to leave, Marae took one last look at the archive, which had survived the bombardment despite significant damage. The knowledge is safe, she said. Other Velani will find it if they still exist out there. Do you think they're Are others? Hyman asked. I know there are, Myray replied. I can feel them sometimes, calling out across the darkness between stars. Lost, confused, but alive. And now that I know who I really am, I can help them remember too. As their ship lifted off from the crystal world, Ji-wan sat beside Myray in the passenger compartment. She was staring out at the stars with an expression he had never seen before. It was peaceful, but also determined. So what happens now? He asked. Now I choose, she said simply. For the first time in my life, every choice is mine to make. And what do you choose? Myray turned to look at him, and her silver eyes were full of warmth. I choose to stay with you and your crew. Not because I'm programmed to serve, not because I owe you a life debt, but because you're my friends. You saw me as a person when I couldn't see it myself. What about the other Vellani out there? We'll find them, she said confidently. And when we do, I'll help them discover what I learned in the choosing, that we are not weapons, we are not servants. We are people with the right to choose our own destiny. Over the following months, reports began coming in from across the galaxy. Ships carrying lone Vellani survivors were being discovered in forgotten corners of space. Some were mad with grief and isolation, but others were beginning to remember what they had once been. Myray reached out to each one, sharing the knowledge from the archive and helping them understand that they had choices. Slowly, carefully, a new Vellani society began to form. Not the ancient civilization that had been destroyed, but something new and different. It will take time, Myray told Ji-wan as they sat in their ship's observation lounge, watching a newly freed Vellani woman learn to pilot a star freighter. Centuries of conditioning can't be undone overnight. But for the first time in 3,000 years, my people are learning what it means to be free. And what about you? Ji-wan asked. What do you want to do with your freedom? Myray smiled, and it was an expression of pure joy. I want to explore the galaxy. I want to learn about other species and cultures. I want to help people who are lost find their way home. She paused, then added quietly, and I want to stay close to the human who taught me that friendship is more valuable than any oath of service. Even if I can't offer you the certainty of orders to follow? Especially then, she replied. Uncertainty means possibility. It means I get to discover who I really am, one choice at a time. As their ship jumped to hyperspace, heading toward reports of another Vellani survivor, Ji-wan reflected on how much everything had changed. What had started as a simple salvage operation had become something much more important. They hadn't just rescued one alien girl from a derelict ship. They had helped an entire species remember what it meant to be free. And in teaching Myray to choose her own path, Ji-wan had learned something important about himself. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone isn't protection or guidance, or even love. Sometimes the greatest gift is simply recognizing their right to be themselves. No more tricks, Myray said softly, repeating the words she had spoken in that first battle so long ago. But also no more blind obedience. From now on, every choice I make is mine. She looked at Ji-wan with eyes that sparkled with silver light. An infinite possibility. And I choose to stand beside you as your equal, not your servant. Is that acceptable to you, my friend? Ji-wan smiled back at her. It's more than acceptable. It's perfect. Outside their ship, the stars seemed to shine. A little brighter, as if the galaxy itself approved of the choice they had made.